Hello and welcome everybody to the webinar Mastering AWS DevOps, again with Vladimir. Vlad, hello, welcome.
Hello,
Nice
everybody.
to see you again. The usual introduction. My name is Felix Rüttimann. Quick thing about recording privacy. We mute the microphone for every participant. You may use the chat to ask any questions. The webinar or DigiSnack will be recorded and afterwards published on our website, but the chats, the participant list, and the videos will not be visible as usual, and you will receive the download link for the presentation afterwards as well. So, and now, Vlad, the stage is yours.
All right, thank you. Let me switch to my slides deck. Yep, this one. All right, I think you can see my slides now. Felix, can you confirm? Yeah, all right.
Perfect.
Let me just move this one here. Okay, welcome everybody again. This is the third in a row of webinars that I present at DigiComp. The first, for those of you who have been participating on previous two, we have covered developing on AWS and Cloud Ops on AWS. Both of those previous webinars were about courses that are on associate level. Today's webinar, it's about DevOps. DevOps is one of two professional courses in AWS and has quite a few prerequisites. And previous two that we introduced already are amongst them. So again, welcome to the course. Again, my name is Vladimir. I am Amazon authorized instructor, teaching plenty of different AWS courses on all possible levels. So if you feel like asking something that you might think we have not covered in this one, feel free to ask, use your chat and ask freely. I'm going to answer at the end of this presentation. So what are we going to do? The structure of all the webinars are the same. So we have the introduction first to the DevOps job role, what it is, initial concerns and consideration. I'm going to go very short on this because we have 4 courses to introduce on this one in the core content. And after the core content, there is again a shorter introduction, which we are going to just quickly over it and wrap everything up. For those of you who have a preference of reading than to listening, the same webinar that I'm presenting now live is going to have a transcript in a kind of blog that you are going to get a link to, so you can read from this little blog as well at any time. It's going to be a PDF or whatever format they are going to convert it to. So let's start with the introduction to DevOps role, what it is about. So we are going to cover the purpose. The purpose of this webinar is, of course, proposing the job role path for DevOps on AWS. So this is not a course, right? This is just proposing which official AWS courses you might want to consider taking when considering DevOps on AWS. What are challenges? As with other AWS courses, a huge pool of learning material and resources, of course. There are literally hundreds of thousands of pages of documentation. Nobody is preventing you from studying on your own, but it might be a really difficult task that you load on yourself. So courses are designed in a way to optimize the learning path and to show you the really important things in every category that we are trying to present to you, and let you then dive deeper to any level to which you concern beneficial for you. The structure, as we're going to see shortly, through this agenda, introduction, the core, and everything very similar as we've seen so far. So I'm just moving forward. Then the core AWS courses to get you there. We're going to see which they are and recommend optional courses. So let's see what they are. So the purpose, we've seen what it was. The challenges, I mentioned what did I saw. Really large amount of material. The structure. So again, let me reiterate, this is not a course. Okay, so this is just a metadata about the courses that are available. There are some 20 or 30 or even more AWS courses out there that you can attend. So as I said, ask anything that you want. And here we are starting to tackle the actual content. So the first course that we try to introduce to any newcomers to AWS, regardless of the level, would be a technical essentials. This is a single day course where you are introduced to AWS. Really strict technical introduction to some of the most important services, VPC, EC2, IAM, and so on. Then security best practices. We're gonna dive a little bit deeper into this one a few minutes later. It's also a single day course. And it's not a substitute to security engineering course, which is a dedicated 3-day course. But this is, as the title suggests, best practices on security on AWS. So those 2 single-day courses are just an intro to what follows in DevOps engineering on AWS. So DevOps engineering on AWS is our core course that we are going to talk about today. It's on the professional level. For those of you who might not remember, we have 3 levels of courses in AWS. So associate level, professional level, and specialty level. So 2 professional level courses, DevOps engineering and advanced architecting. We are going to talk about DevOps today. This job role pathway is basically merging and extending the efforts from 2 previously mentioned courses, CloudOps and Developer. Those also had webinars, as we've talked earlier. And DevOps obviously combine operations and developing in the effort to make all the operations a continuous experience, an automated continuous experience, which would allow high speed of delivery of whatever you're building in your organization to your customers. Okay, so apart from those courses that I've listed on this slide, we have some other recommendations or optional courses. And in each of our webinars, we always try to recommend architecting on AWS associate level course. This is a 3-day course, which is really foundational and brings you on the terms with terminology, the way of thinking, the best practices on the associate level, of course. And we really do recommend this one for everybody, regardless of the specialization, whether you're a developer, whether it's security engineer, whether you're a DevOps engineer, whatever you are, architecting can be very beneficial for you. Next, advanced developing on AWS. That, of course, is weighted more for developers. But there are some topics that you might find beneficial if you are a DevOps engineer as well. Also, when you are concerning yourself with migration from on-prem environment to AWS environment, the advanced developing tackle one particular topic, and that's we're gonna tackle that we're gonna talk about a little bit later today. The third recommended optional course is running containers on EKS, Amazon EKS. This is Elastic Kubernetes Service. This is another 3-day course talking just about Kubernetes. This is one of really specialized courses that teaches you how to get the maximum out of Kubernetes, but get the easiest possible deployment of the cluster itself. And I'm going to talk about that again in the core section of our of our presentation today. Okay, so let's go forward. So initial concerns and consideration. So let's go through this. Why not all in a single course? Well, we mentioned already that there's a really large amount of material that would make it impractical packing everything in a single course. That it would take weeks or months. And AWS has packed various topics into various courses. That should be logical. So yeah, and that's of course packing everything together would be logistically inappropriate. Another point is that not everybody is interested in everything. So AWS has tried to pack everything based around the tasks that individual job roles are usually doing and automating. Can you pick just single course out of plethora of listed courses? Of course, you can focus on a single course like DevOps or just architecting or just developing or security or machine learning, whatever you want. But the point is, one single course, unless you are really, really experienced in the topic itself and AWS already, probably will not be enough. So that's why we have prepared a selection of courses, starting with the technical essentials and going through all of these listed courses that I've selected and shown you already to you. And majority of participants benefit from, especially if they're new to the AWS, benefit from taking suggested path. Are those courses enough? Well, combined together, they tend to be enough for providing you with essential information so you don't waste your time browsing through the really hundreds of thousands of pages of documentation trying to find a particular topic. By providing examples and by providing use cases during the individual courses, we show you exactly where you should focus and concentrate in searching detailed answers for your questions. Of course, that doesn't mean that on our courses we're talking only on the high level of problems. Not at all. We dive deep into some particular use cases and details, technical details, especially on the perspective of understanding the concepts of AWS and how individual services work together. Okay, we think that this is really, really the essential. Learning technicalities about individual services tends to get really easy once you understand the concepts, and we try to focus on introducing the concepts to you. So why exactly this course? Well, in DevOps, that is because DevOps is all about continuity, as we've said. It's all about continuous integration, continuous deployment, pipelines, automation of all kinds. And in this course, we start to go slowly through building pipelines, building automation, learning about the services that you can use for those, and trying to show you how you can do this on your own and how you can customize already given examples for your benefits. What it means to be a DevOps on AWS? Well, on AWS, everything becomes code eventually, right? Because cloud is, well, expressed externally through the API. And all the commands, all the web console, the CLI, the cloud formation, other services, all of those are utilizing the underlying API. And because of that, every action that you do, being the direct action, creating the bucket, creating the EC2 instance, creating the pipeline, or letting this pipeline do something or change something for you, basically means that it's going to utilize this underlying API in order to do something useful for you. And that being a DevOps on AWS means knowing how to utilize that, how to utilize this in imperative way or declarative way. Okay, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later. So eventually everything becomes code, and that's the essence of the cloud. And cloud is the best environment to utilize your resources through code. Whether it's difficult or easy, it completely depends on your individual perspective. If you are completely new to AWS, of course you're not going to start on DevOps. Please start with technical essentials, then with associate level courses, and then go slowly through professional and specialty layers, specialty courses. But if you are already seasoned professional DevOps engineer working in on-prem environment and utilizing, I don't know, Terraform, Ansible, all kind of Jenkins, for example, and you just need some kind of mapping between your existing knowledge to how particular tasks are performed on AWS. You can, of course, plug right into this particular course and go along. Of course, again, we suggest try at least some of associate level courses like architecting. Architecting is essential to the AWS utilization of AWS on all levels, really on all levels. So the difficulty would really be subjective perspective and would totally depend on your experience. Of course, different backgrounds that links to the previous slide would provide different level of comfort for you. So DevOps, generally speaking, is really a wide topic. And we're not talking about just single tech stack. We are talking about automating the all kinds of things like provisioning the resources, AWS resources themselves, provisioning your application, helping your application, or developing lifecycle through automating the pipelines and things like this. You might be using containers. Containers are great for DevOps and because of its declarative approach. Of course, coding, some kind of coding skill is must. You don't need to have that much experience in all of different languages as developers usually do or are required to have, but knowing how to create a script, knowing how to read script, even if it's written in different languages or different tools, is essential and is expected that you already have this kind of skill when coming to this course. So as I said, our expectation, well, know some high-level programming language already, doesn't matter which one. This is just to provide you with the ability to understand the written code. Know how to use the command line tools in shell environment. This is really important. Entire DevOps relies on command line tools. Why? Well, because command line tools are those that you can automate through scripting, through pipelines and various other automations. You cannot automate the console. You could, but it would be really difficult. But command line tools and knowledge how to use them in general is essential. If you know that, we are going to take you from that on and show you the rest. What if you don't have enough experience? Start on one of the earlier courses on associate level, on technical essentials level, most definitely, and allow enough time between taking individual courses for the knowledge and your experience to set in, right? Just attending the courses is never not enough. And here we are, finally at the core content and our 4 courses that I'm going to introduce. So those 4 courses are security best practices, DevOps engineering, advanced developing, and running containers on Amazon Elastic Kubernetes. So it's EKS. So let's start with the first one. By the way, on the previous slides, you've seen that I was talking about technical essentials. When you link to those links and get the resources that my colleagues are going to share with you, you will find the technical essentials description written. So I'm skipping that one so we can focus and spend more time on those, the rest of the courses. And the first one is AWS security best practices. I said already that this is not a substitute. This is not a substitute for security engineering on AWS course. This is just how to call it, a cherry-picked topics for DevOps engineers to better understand some common topics and technologies used across the AWS that concerns overall security greatly. And if you are interested in more specific in security, then I suggest take a 3-day security engineering course. But this one is just 1 day, just to remind you what's essential and give you some opportunity to practice on that. Some topics from these security best practices, as you can see listed below, are security overview. So to talk about the shared responsibility, which is really important for users of AWS to understand. Shared responsibility explains where your responsibility for security of whatever you're doing in cloud begins and where it ends, right? And of course, where AWS as a provider responsibility begins and ends, right? So that's what is security overview, roughly. Then securing the networks, securing the EC2. EC2, are the virtual machines in the cloud in AWS, where you can run, well, anything, whatever you can run on virtual machine or whichever supported operating system you pick, you can use this. And securing virtual machines is really important. Understanding the security context of these virtual machines is super important, because it's not just network as we have seen. It's also the context of the permissions granted to the EC2 instance running for your application and providing the CPU and memory and storage for that. And understanding this security context and how you grant your application proper permissions, and how you implement the least privilege principle, which is super important in cloud in general, is one of the most important topics that we tackle in this course. Of course, monitoring and alerting, which we tackle in almost every course, because each of AWS services, or not each, but most of them comes with built-in monitoring and alerting capacity. And knowing how to find your way around those monitoring capabilities is essential. Having a resource of any kind running in the cloud without knowing what it's doing, how it's utilizing resources, can be more harmful than beneficial for you. So that's why monitoring and alerting is really super important, especially for DevOps, because DevOps are usually those persons and those teams that are responsible for everything running smoothly in automated environment like AWS is. So that somehow encapsulate this single day security best practices course. And from here, we move forward to our DevOps engineering on AWS. And DevOps engineering on AWS, as I said, is one of 2 professional courses that builds on top of 2 associate level courses. This is developing, and this is CloudOps. Why does it build on those 2? Well, because DevOps is all about automating the process of software development lifecycle of your product. It's all about it. So it's normal that you go first and learn something about how you utilize the SDK, the API, the environments, the tools, and the resources to create native cloud applications on one of the associated courses. And then, of course, that would be developing one. And the other, where we talk about cloud ops, is how you operate the environment. So again, automation of particularly EC2 environment, but not limited to EC2 environment. And those two combined are solid foundation for DevOps, right? And once you have a good foundation, you can start learning how to automate this software developing lifecycle by implementing all kinds of pipelines. And of course, we're talking about continuous integration, continuous deployment pipelines. We're going to talk about code commit, code build, code deploy, code pipeline, code start, all code services within AWS and how you can customize them to any kind of your benefits, right? You will learn about different strategies to safely and reliably deploy. Why is this important? Well, many times in cloud, you would be happy just to run some kind of batch operation, and when it's finished, you forget about it, right? But again, many times in cloud, you would want your essential applications to run 24/7. And when you have applications that are running 24/7, it is really super important to understand how you can upgrade your running application on your servers or in managed environment without disrupting your user experience. That's super important. The larger the company, the larger the number of end users, the more important this deployment is. And we dedicate entire chapters to that topic alone. That's how this important, how important this is. You'll be doing all of this with full awareness of security implications. That's why we suggested the previous course, the one-day course on best practices on security. And security is not easy on AWS because it's one of the foundational layers. And if you get things wrong on security, you will suffer greatly later on every step. So understanding how to do automation, how to do continuity, regardless whether it's integration or deployment or delivery, how to do this, all of these things securely is important. Is very really is essential actually. We'll also touch upon containerization and orchestration of containerization solution, namely ECS. ECS, perhaps you've heard, is Amazon's, is AWS native solution for orchestration of containers. So enables you to run thousands, tens of thousands of containers if you want. Similar orchestration solution is Kubernetes, but as you've seen, and we're going to talk later, Kubernetes has its own course entirely. So when talking about containerization in DevOps engineering course, we're going to talk about ECS. So ECS, Elastic Container Service. Okay, super useful service and super convenient one. Why? Well, because if you have decided to implement your application inside of container, you have already done a great deal of preparing of your application to run in different environments and be portable on different environments, in on-prem, in cloud environment, wherever you can provide some kind of orchestration for the container engine that you're using. And of course, ECS orchestration tool, ECS service, is using Docker, well-known containerization service. So let's take a look at some additional topics on DevOps course that you will encounter if decide for that course. First, of course, we are going to try to introduce you to DevOps as a principle, as a paradigm. And you know that if you ask different people, on DevOps, you will hear different answers. Everybody has its own perception of what it is. Without doubt, it's a paradigm that combines operations and developing. So automating it, making it continuous, and providing high velocity in the development lifecycle. So in that topic, we are going to talk about that. So laying a background of understanding why we are doing this in the first place. Then we are going to talk about infrastructure automation, which is really a pivotal in automating and managing the provisioning of infrastructure through code. I mentioned already that everything in AWS, everything eventually becomes a code. So we want to minimize manual processes. That's one of the goals, because with that, we are reducing the human error possibility. And we are going to delve into the utilization of AWS Cloud Formation. Of course, AWS Cloud Formation is the flagship of infrastructure as code in AWS, and we tackle it in CloudOps already. So that's again why it is essential that you perhaps join the CloudOps before you come to DevOps, because we are not repeating the same stuff. We are just continuing to where we left and trying to lift it on the higher level. Next topic would be AWS toolset. AWS provides a large palette of various tools that can help you streamline your efforts when doing anything in AWS. And some of the tools that we are going to talk about would be AWS CLI. This is the essential one. Many people who don't know AWS really good think that AWS is just AWS console, where you just click your way around. That's not true. AWS comes with really, truly powerful AWS CLI, command line interface, where you can do everything and more than you can do in AWS console through commands, through scripting, right? And this is the first step in automating anything on AWS. Another tool is Cloud9, which is an IDE. IDE is the integrated development environment. And this Cloud9 IDE is basically a web application running inside of browser, running inside of your account, and allowing you to develop the code, to write the code, to utilize the shell. It runs on Linux, and use it as a central point for developing operation and anything that you want to do to control your environment on AWS, your AWS accounts. Of course, there's also CDK. CDK is Cloud Developer Kit, and a few others, right? So that would be the topic of tool sets. After that one, the major topic is pipelines, CI/CD, so continuous integration, continuous deployment pipelines. Many of you have used CI/CDs from different vendors. Jenkins is the well-known open source CI/CD tool, and you can use, not in a managed way, but you can use and combine Jenkins with other DevOps tools in AWS as well. But if you want to build cloud-native pipelines where you want to leverage the power of AWS resources and services, you can go with all AWS services like cloud like code commit, which is managed Git server like GitHub, but by default and only private, right? So code commit, then code pipeline, on which provides the actual bus for the code build, which you use for building and testing your applications and your products, and code deploy, which you use to actually, as the name implies, to deploy your artifacts on various environments, be it on AWS or on-prem. And yes, you've heard correctly, on-prem and the cloud. So how this works, we can show you on the course. Next one would be introduction to microservices. Why introduction? Well, because we have a separate dedicated course, which is called Advanced Developing. That's the next one that we're going to talk about, that talks just about microservices. So in this one, we're just going to introduce you to microservices, because microservices utilize a big deal of DevOps resources, pipelines, for that matter, in order to follow all the paradigms of building microservices architectures. DevOps and containers, I mentioned that already. DevOps and serverless computing. Of course, we cannot go across DevOps course without mentioning lambdas and other services that fully managed services, serverless services that can help you create reliable and secure and fully scalable solutions based on serverless computing. Right? What's serverless computing? Well, briefly, that's the kind of computing where you utilize the managed system and you are not required to provision your own resources, like your own virtual machines, EC2 instances, your own networks. Many of times not. Right? Many times you're not required to do that. Next one, deployment strategies. I mentioned already why deployment is so essential. So we are going to tackle the importance of that here. Just to repeat, the essence of these deployment strategies is providing uninterrupted deployment. That means changing the versions of your deployed application without your users being disrupted in any way. So your users probably will just notice that something has changed, or even not notice that if your changes are not visual. If you are just, for example, providing bug fixes or some kind of solution that is non-visual. Next is automated testing. We are going to talk a lot about different testing strategies. Testing is essential in developing and DevOps, because with testing you can fail fast. And when you are failing fast, it's not something bad. It means that you spend less time being delusional, thinking that everything's fine, while it's not. If you're not testing your deployment. So testing is a part of continuous effort. So CI/CD pipelines, where you test your code, your solution on various levels. Next, security automation. All of these things that we're talking about would be nothing without security. You cannot do anything on AWS without providing security in a proper way. But don't be like some of users that are running their applications under administrative or root credentials or context in your on-prem environments. That's not the way to run applications on cloud. All applications can have faults, and it's not a question if, but more a question when these faults are going to break your application and expose vulnerabilities that you might not even know about to the potential attacker. So understanding security and automating this security in a proper way is essential, and we address this in this topic. Configuration management, taking care of your configuration, taking care of compliance is also something that you want to pay quite some time on understanding part and learning which services you can use for that, namely AWS Config, which would help you greatly to provide compliance throughout of your DevOps effort. Observability would be the last topic in the DevOps course, and it would address a triplet of monitoring, logging, and tracing, and again teaching you, showing you which services and how to use in the most efficient way to get the benefit of knowing early what's going on with your resources, with your applications, and with your users, of course. So that was it about DevOps course, individual DevOps course. We haven't finished yet. Let's continue with the next one. Next course that I have introduced earlier is Advanced Developing on AWS. This is another 3-day course. So DevOps engineering was 3-day course. This is the 3-day course as well. What it is about? It extends developing on AWS, which we met on associate level, to completely new level. And this new level is understanding how you can migrate your monolith application to microservices architecture. We are not saying that you should do this in every application that you start building. We are trying to show you the benefits of microservices, especially when you can expect and anticipate that large-scale scalability will be required. And microservices behave best in that way. We want you to understand the benefits of both monolith and microservices applications, but this course is dedicated to understanding later and understanding what you need to know and what you need to do in order to migrate from one to the other. DevOps is heavily utilized in this course. What this means? It means we are going to see that we rely on CI/CD resources. So code pipeline, code build, code pipeline, code commit, and other services that we mentioned already. Some important services are only discussed here, like Elastic Beanstalk, and it is important resource that you can use in order to gain some time when you are migrating, when you lift and shift or rehosting your existing application from, for example, on-prem, and you are on your way to migrate to microservices, but you can use Elastic Beanstalk as an intermediate point. Of course, you can use Elastic Beanstalk as a final point as well, and you are going to learn all its benefits in this course. Many building and architectural patterns are discussed here to help you get the most out of AWS. So let's observe some of the topics. So gaining agility, right? Using AWS tools, that's the pipelines and CI/CD pipelines and tools we mentioned. Migrating monolith to microservices, understanding the reasons behind it, understanding the polyglot persistence and distributed complexity. Distributed complexity is the fact. The entire AWS cloud is distributed system. Some of your application might be distributed systems as well. That's why we're talking about microservices in the first place. So understanding the implications of running such system is really beneficial for you. And we address this in this topic. Resilience at scale, what does it mean to eliminate single point of failure, and how to do that efficiently and at scale is another topic. Security and observability, as you can see, is, ever repeating topic in all our courses. But that doesn't mean that we repeat things. We always try to observe the current topic through the lenses of security and observability tools and resources that AWS provide. Next, and last course is running containers on EKS. I mentioned already that this is a course completely dedicated to Kubernetes, right? And it's again a 3-day course, and it complements the DevOps engineering on AWS course by extending on the topics that we have mentioned earlier, where we talked about containerization and orchestrations of containers, and we mentioned ECS. EKS, this is Elastic Kubernetes Service, is here just to provide a managed Kubernetes. Kubernetes can be difficult, especially for beginners, and this is perfect environment to start if you even haven't started learning Kubernetes and you want to, this can be a great environment, because Kubernetes, you might have heard, is divided in control and data plane. And control plane, which is the essential for reliable operation, is managed, right? So you don't have to worry about it, and you can completely dedicate your effort and resources to understanding how to improve your application on the Kubernetes platform on Amazon, on AWS. Without any doubt, Kubernetes has established itself as a standard orchestration tool. And especially if you are coming already from the Kubernetes, with the Kubernetes background, you will know how to appreciate this. This is not some kind of distribution of Kubernetes. This is native Kubernetes being implemented on the AWS, all right? So anything that runs on your native Kubernetes, right, can run on your on the EKS as well. All right, let's see what we have next. So some topics from this course, yeah. So to make it more interesting. So fundamentals of Kubernetes. So again, to emphasize, Kubernetes is a huge topic. You can spend a year learning Kubernetes, and you wouldn't be able to claim that you know everything about it. All right. I've been using Kubernetes for, I don't know, I've lost the count, 8 years, probably somewhere around 8 years. And I don't dare saying I know everything. But on this course, you are get something from the native Kubernetes world. So learning the vocabulary, learning the concepts, and then learning about EKS fundamentals. So the infrastructure and resources that make the Kubernetes on AWS possible, and then blending those two together. One of the skills that you are going to learn here is building your EKS cluster. This is essential skill. So you have to know how to build your EKS cluster in order to utilize it, right? Of course, not everybody needs to know that. Those who are in charge of running Kubernetes clusters would usually attend this course. So this is administrative course. Some vendors separate the Kubernetes courses on administrative level and developer level. This is administrative level on developing on EKS, on Kubernetes, on AWS. Deploying application to EKS. Once you have your cluster running, the next step is learning how to pack your application. Of course, it will be packed in container, but the minimum unit on Kubernetes is not a container, it's not a container image, but is a pod. And pod is an abstraction above the containers, so in plural. So you can have one or more containers inside one pod. It's a capsule, it's a pod, which contains everything your application needs for it running. And this pod is then utilized by Kubernetes. Gonna explain all of this in this topic. Then architecting on EKS, how to build a cluster that we've learned how to bring to life in this topic, how to build this cluster to be resilient and to scale effectively, and to avoid some pitfalls that await on you if you're not careful. Managing networking on EKS. Networking can be quite complex on Kubernetes, right? Because of that, we have a dedicated topic where we explain, fundamentals, I would say, about networking of the Kubernetes itself and how this networking is implemented on AWS, how they play together, and some of simplification and some of tools like mesh technologies that help you simplify networking on your application level. Managing authentication and authorization of EKS, it's all about security again. So who is allowed to do what and where inside of your cluster? Implementing secure workflows of deployment of your applications is also part of it. Finally, last but not least, managing Kubernetes upgrades. Kubernetes is one of the most, I would say, aggressive from the perspective of upgrading, one of the most aggressive technologies existing in IT. It brings new minor version of Kubernetes every 3 months. And doing this in some manual way can be really frustrating. So again, the benefits of having half managed or fully managed system, if you're using Fargate, for example, are shown here. Of course, we teach you where to be, what to take care of, what to be careful at, so you again not fall into some pitfalls. That's why you come to these courses, to learn all this stuff. And that's all about these 4 courses that were at the core of DevOps job role pathway, right? So you see, it's not a single course. It's several courses that you should tackle when you think you are ready for each of them. What's next after the course? Well, what you'll be able to do after AWS developer course job role path, you will be able to do quite a lot. You've seen the amount of courses, the amount of topics that we tackle. You'll be, if anything, you'll get a confidence that what you're doing the right way. It will take some practice, some training on your own to polish off the rough edges of your knowledge. But once you finish the courses, you will have enough knowledge to be able to continue individually and to continue autonomously on your own. If you're only interested in serverless, should I skip developing on AWS and get straight to serverless course? Okay, this is for some other course, so I'm skipping this one. I'm experienced developer. Should I skip this course and go straight to advanced course developing? Well, it depends. It depends. You've seen that's how intertwined all these courses are, depending on what you really want to do. So as a DevOps engineer, someone who is interested in DevOps, you are usually interested in DevOps because you want to streamline your developing process, right? So you are already developer. On which level, on which phase, it's up to you to decide. Right? It's all about time. We try to save you some, yes, and I explained how we do that by literally pointing you for particular use cases, for particular topics on proper documentation or proper examples and proper sources to extend your knowledge. Is it only for developers or DevOps engineers? Not. If you are a product manager, you can learn about how AWS systems works, so you can be more agile and you can better understand what your team is doing. There are also going to be labs, quite a few labs, 2 labs per day, usually in a 3-day course. So 6 to 7 labs per course. And in labs, you get to implement some of the knowledge that you've been introduced to during the course. If you feel really confident already, you can join the jam session. Jam session is a gamified environment in which you present you to a problem that you have to solve in the shortest possible time. The jam session is not part of the course itself. Different courses have different jam sessions, right? So DevOps course have a DevOps jam session. Developer course have a developer jam session, and they focus on individual tasks and individual targets, knowledge targets on individual courses. The fear of logging in is sometimes present in students when they attend AWS courses, but let me reassure you that it's like many other fears. It's large but it's void inside, because AWS uses and utilizes a lot of standardized technologies that you have probably seen already or used already. And it just perhaps presents a different way of using. And how to get maximum out of it? Well, try to ask questions. Ask a lot of questions. Take the benefit of having a living instructor experienced trainer in front of you that can share their experience with you, with the class. What else you will learn? Well, you will learn some additional services and resources that we haven't talked about because they are not unimportant, but just have a helping role in the entire effort. Lastly, the wrap up.
Vlad, sorry to interrupt, but we are getting close to the minute, and we have one important question, which I think is quite.
Alexander, I want to start a little
clever. Yes.
Why would I pick AWS as the private cloud provider over Azure or any other provider? What are the advantages? Well, I cannot compare Azure or Google Cloud with AWS. Okay. As the certified AWS trainer, that's not something that I do, but I can assure you that AWS has a proven history record of really technological advantages, real technological advantages and tools that have been proven in the practice by thousands and hundreds of thousands of customers across the world, millions of customers across the world. So, and try small, I would say, try small, try with some one-day course, and you'll learn more there. We unfortunately don't have much time, but I really cannot compare different clouds. All right.
I was just thinking, because the thing is, we have AWS DevOps, we have even Red Hat DevOps, and we have standard DevOps, which is technology unbound. So the Digicom features as well, just like regular DevOps classes, where you can learn the methodology of DevOps. So it's always a question, because Alex, you referred to, I want to start, why would I pick AWS as the cloud provider over Azure or any other provider? The thing is, do you want to learn DevOps per se as the methodology, or do you say, I want to learn DevOps on a certain cloud provider? So these are, I guess, two different topics, which you might contact me later and we can discuss this. Vlad? Go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So I was about to wrap up with everything. So with psychology of learning, different people learn different ways. So some are more visual types, some are more types that would rather read than listen. With every course, we provide a stack of slides in a form of digital book, which is a reminder for students what we've talked about, and with plenty of different pointers, like links, useful links with to documentation, to videos, to tutorials, to workshops, and many other resources. If you are new to AWS, if you are new to DevOps, the learning curve might be steep. It would require a significant amount of learning and effort from you, but in nowadays software building industry, everything is DevOps. We are way past the times where DevOps was not a requirement, and learning how to do this in one of the leading cloud providers will be definitely beneficial for you. I would like to also point out the benefits of virtual or instructor-led training, virtual or non-virtual, for your trainers. As I said, take advantage of those trainings and ask questions that are bothering you, that try to cooperate, be interactive. These courses are relatively short, 3 days, and we serve a lot of content in that short time, and it can be really overwhelming. But don't shut down in such courses. Don't get startled. Don't be afraid to ask. We repeat over and over again, on the course, there is no wrong questions. Just keep asking, and you'll You'll keep getting the answers by instructors that I can promise will do their best to answer all of your questions, of course, relevant to AWS and the course that you are attending. So as the last, there is a lure of getting certified. DevOps also provides certification, so you can become a certified DevOps engineer on AWS. Let me just say that this is one of the hardest exams on AWS. I can assure you on that. But once you pass this exam, you will be confident that you know something about DevOps on AWS, and you'll be confident of solving any kind of DevOps problem on AWS. And the last, let me invite you, join us on any of presented courses. As I said, this is just one of these webinars. Browse around the web page that will be provided a link to. There are other webinars. Take a look to other webinars. Read the blogs that we have written, and decide to join us on the course. And we will discuss together AWS and the best possible way to learn about AWS. Thank you.
Vlad, thank you, as usual, as always. Very insightful.
Yeah, I'll extend this a little bit. I know it's 1 hour is terribly short time to explain 4 so important courses on AWS.
Yes, but anyhow, I mean, just stop the presentation. Anyhow, it's as usual a lot of things to take into consideration, and yep, maybe not the easiest path to start with.
No. That's exactly why we always say start small, start with essential course. We are going to gently introduce you to the AWS through cloud practitioner, through essential technical essentials, through associate level courses. I always use the opportunity to invite the students or potential students join the associate level courses first. Don't drop into advanced developing, for example. Even if you are the top developer, go through the life cycle of these preparatory level courses, then associate level courses, and then professional and specialty level courses. There's really a reason why it's done because this way. Because if you come to the advanced developing, for example, or cloud or DevOps on the AWS, and you haven't seen AWS at all before that, you will be lost. You'll be completely lost. You will have no idea what we're doing and why we are doing this way. If I just summarize the associate level courses, 3 courses at 3 days each, that's 9 courses. I myself have taken the associate level architecting as my first AWS course after I had already 20 years of experience as a developer and system admin and whatnot. And I was overwhelmed on that level already, And I'm really suggesting that we appreciate your knowledge and what you're bringing with you, but there are 200 services, more than 200 services on AWS. It's simply impossible to start and explain everything in a DevOps course. That's why we have so many courses before. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the cloud practitioner. It's a full day blown with what services exist. So
Yeah. And that's the easiest level.
Yeah.
So is anybody here with any questions here?
You might unmute yourself as well if you want to.
You can unmute yourself if you want, but you can use chat if you want.
Doesn't look like that.
No. So, okay, then we wrap it up.
Then I stop quickly the recording.